To start off our CO2 safety and partner segment, we will talk with Tom Geordt, Technical Director at Micro Matic. Micro Matic is the global market leader in the supply of keg couplers, keg extractor valves, and dispensing solutions to the brewing industry. They have pioneered industry-leading draft beer products and services since 1953 and are today active worldwide. Quality is key in everything that they do, and at Micro Matic, they are focused on infusing that quality to commitment in every aspect of their business, and creating state-of-the-art beer dispensing solutions paired with educational programs and creative new point-of-sale merchandising. You can trust them to deliver products to market quality using the best quality components, as well as standing by and offering CO2 safety solutions to their partners and customers worldwide. Now, let's get into the CO2 safety interview segment with Tom Geordt from Micro Matic.
Now, before we get started, I first wanted to thank Tom for taking time today. And I'm really excited to dig in here and gain some real industry perspective on the topic today that we're going to be discussing, which is on gas detection safety, CO2 safety more specifically in our industry. But before we get into it, Tom, would you mind telling us a little bit about the company and your role at Micro Matic?
Thanks, Morgan, for having me on today. I'm really looking forward to it. Micro Matic is the largest supplier of draft beer dispensing equipment in the world. In the U.S., we have 4 regional facilities stocked to the brim with over 3,000 different parts, all to do with dispensing beverage. Okay. In each one of those facilities, we also have a state-of-the-art training center where we train draft beer professionals in all forms of liquid dispense, mostly emphasizing beer. But personally, I've been with Micro Matic for 33 years. I'm the technical director here, so I've been around a long time. So have seen it all.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Tom. I know you hit on training, and that's big for us, especially with this topic. You're really an industry leader, and I think I'd be curious to know just a little bit more about yourself on the training aspect and how you got to your role at Micro Matic.
One of those people, Morgan, that I have to understand how it works. I can't just, rely on the fact that it will work. So I've been lucky enough to work for a company that allows me the flexibility to interact with a lot of industry professionals. And I really took the time to pick the brains of a lot of people that are way smarter than me. I've been blessed that I know a lot of people in our industry being here for all these years, and really have gained a lot of knowledge from industry professionals, like Josh, the guy that, is in charge of sales for your company. He's a real expert on CO2 safety, and I've picked his brain, a number of times, and then also, some of our other suppliers. But in addition to that, one of the great things I think that I bring to the table for our company is I actually have a lot of street knowledge, because I owned an installation and service business for over 25 years for draft beer. So not only did I get to learn about those things here at Micro Matic, but I also went out into the field and installed, and then ended up servicing them as well. So a lot of hands-on experience over those years too. So that's kind of how I ended up where I am, really.
I feel like it really comes full circle, and that's always interesting for me to see the industry leaders in this field and kind of how their career has shaped them. But I do definitely agree, you can't really talk the talk until you walk the walk. So I think that speaks volumes to your expertise in this field.
It's been quite a role for 30 some years to see all the changes, not only just in our business in Micro Matic, but in the industry as well. I mean, we've went through a lot of changes in 33 years in the draft beer industry, and now Micro Matic going into what we would consider the all beverage side of things. So not just beer, but all forms of beverage, cocktails and coffee and all kinds of different things. But one thing that I think is relevant to our conversation here is that almost all of those things, other beverages, let's call them all beverages, they almost all use gas, right, to dispense them. So it definitely has relevance to our conversation. And but again, it's just been a wild ride, 30 some years of seeing all the changes that's happening in our industry and happened in our industry.
Too, just with the industry perspective, like you said, all these applications, they're using this gas, but not always aware of the true hazards that are at hand when they're working with these gases. Could you talk a little bit more about what steps you specifically take or your team takes to really facilitate safety in the field for these guys that are out there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So, I mean, we as Micro Matic take CO2 and all gas safety to be one of our top priorities in our everyday lives here, because we are dealing with it literally. I mentioned earlier that we have 4 state-of-the-art training centers in each, one in each one of our locations here in the U.S. We actually have working beer systems and dispensing systems in every one of those. So literally, we are touching and feeling gas every single day. And then obviously supplying that stuff out into the field to all of our hundreds of thousands of customers. But just to give you some kind of an idea how seriously we take CO2 safety here is, a number of years ago, when CO2Meter introduced the personal safety devices, the personal monitoring devices, we outfitted anyone in our company that would have any contact or potential contact with high levels of CO2. We supplied them with a personal CO2 safety meter. I have one, all of my trainers have them, even our outside salespeople that are out, making calls on customers, they may come into contact with, CO2 in dangerous levels. We supplied all of those folks with personal CO2 detectors, of which they still use on a daily basis. And then one of the other things that I'm very proud of, we've done, and this goes back again several years now, I'm going to say for the last 7 or 8 years, we have every food service or every beer system quote or any kind of system quote that involves gas dispense, we mandate that we put on those quotes CO2 detection devices. So if it's multiple points of CO2, like maybe a soda bulk tank, a walk-in cooler, we supply or quote on every single quote that equipment. Again, we take that very seriously. Our website has a couple really good articles based or for CO2 safety. And then in our catalog, even we have a beautiful 200 plus page catalog that we print typically every year. We have 4 pages in that catalog just devoted to CO2 detection devices, stuff to all provide safety. We do take it very seriously.
I appreciate that you also mentioned the CO2 monitoring solutions, and I know education is just so critical with this, so people really know, here's not just a device, but how to use it and how it can safeguard them when they're out there in the field, especially from a portable, going from one place to another. And we're honored too that you are using and delivering our specific solutions to your customers out there in the field. I know, switching gears just a little bit, just in terms of the industry with beverage and restaurants, I was curious if you were standing just in front of, let's say, 1,000 restaurateurs that have specifically draft beer systems, because that's definitely a popular industry that uses CO2 constantly. What specific piece of advice would you give them around CO2 safety?
Yeah, so that's a really easy one for me. My advice to both our customers and retailers, because we don't specifically sell directly to retail, but we supply equipment to retail through dealers and installers. But my advice would be to buy a CO2 monitoring device. It's serious. Look, this whole CO2 safety thing hits very close to home with me. I had a very good friend of mine that I lost in a CO2 safety incident. He was working in the Atlanta Braves Stadium, and he went into a cooler that was filled with CO2, and he lost his life. It's a very serious thing for me. It hit, this whole CO2 safety thing hits very close to home with me. So the answer to your question for me is very simple. I am absolutely astonished that even though it's a lot of municipalities across the country require CO2 safety equipment, any place that CO2 is stored inside of their facility, that they have a CO2 monitoring device. But I'm absolutely astonished that that still doesn't happen to a great extent. I can tell you, when I owned my installation and service business, that I would say 90% of the places that we went into did not have CO2 monitoring devices. I mean, that's crazy to me. But so again, I guess my advice, it's a long answer for you, but my advice to anyone that is involved in this industry is that to take CO2 safety seriously and buy a CO2 monitoring device, at least one for your walk-in cooler. But for sure, if you have CO2 in any confined spaces, like where your bag in the box soda systems are located or whatever, it's something to be really taken seriously. Like I said, this whole thing hits very close to home with me from a CO2 safety standpoint.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate you for sharing that too. I feel like it's so true. People always think, as hazardous as it is, it's not going to happen to me. And a lot of people don't realize it's not until, unfortunately, it's too late where those incidents arrive. So that speaks volumes. And I definitely agree with you in terms of just CO2 safety and how vital it is for these guys when they're dealing with all these hazardous gases on the daily, storing, producing, or using. So with that, I think on the CO2 safety solution side, I'd be curious to know from Micro Matic's perspective, is there one specific feature or functionality that you feel is imperative for your customers to understand when it comes to providing these solutions to them?
Again, that's a fairly easy one for me again. And that is that I think the thing that scares a lot of our customers, which in reality are installers, is that for me, they think that these things are difficult to install, and they think there's a lot of misconceptions about maintenance and all these things. So my favorite feature is that they're super easy to install. When I say super easy, look, I installed 3 of them here within the last couple months. And if it takes more than 15 minutes to install one of these things, you're not very handy. But they're super easy to install. And the other thing is that there's no maintenance, basically, right? If you install a CO2 sensor, that it's plug and play. You literally take your 15, 30 minutes for installation, plug it in, and off it goes. There's no calibrating, there's no adjusting, there's no nothing. The display comes up, shows you what your CO2 levels are. I mean, it's super, super easy to install. So that for sure would be my favorite, feature, especially from the CO2Meter standpoint. Their piece of equipment, I feel is the easiest one that I've come across anyway to install in the marketplace.
I don't mean to be biased because I know that there are other devices out there, but yep. I personally believe the same. I don't know if you've seen too. I've actually gone out there, like you mentioned, I want to see exactly how these work. I want to get to be the actual, end user draft installer. So I actually have videos out there on our own website of me installing the devices just to show like, hey guys, this is incredibly easy to use. It's vital, it's important, and I can do it.
Absolutely, that's great. Well, just to be fair, we do carry other brands of CO2 monitoring and safety devices as well. So, but I just feel like the CO2Meter has a little bit of a leg up on everyone else as far as from an ease of installation standpoint. And I just like how easy they are to work with, right? Not only the equipment, but you guys as well. You've been a fantastic supplier for us.
So I want to kind of switch gears a little bit back to Micro Matic and just your expertise in the field. I know we've talked a lot about the importance of CO2 safety so far in the industry, getting understanding and awareness on, the factors at play when individuals are using these gases in the field. But back on the training and education factor, how do you or your team specifically just keep training interactive and impactful? I know there's so many people out there that, CO2, they sometimes think it's boring. So I was just curious to know what are you guys doing out there to keep it not boring?
Sure. Well, we do try to keep it fresh, and from a general training perspective, we'll talk about that first, and then I'll dig a little bit deeper into our training programs, because I really think, I am a little biased here, but we do have the best training program in the industry. There's no doubt about it. But website, we try to keep freshened up all the time with new information. We try to do not only just training for, or I should say, current content for our customers, but also for our own employees, right? We have a large staff and a lot of salespeople and a lot of inside salespeople. So we try to keep their mind fresh on all of that stuff. So we do a lot of webinars, right? Training our folks. I know we've had, again, I mentioned Josh Pringle earlier from CO2Meter. We've had Josh in a couple times over the last, let's say, 12 or 14 months to kind of refresh our folks on the latest and greatest with CO2 safety, as well as with your equipment. So we try to keep all of that, social media stuff, at shows, things. We try to keep that social media channel buzzing with whatever we can, right? So keeping stuff fresh, I think, is really important. Keep reminding people that, it's out there. And then for me, the training, our training department, and our trainings that we conduct, we do them every other week here in the U.S. somewhere in one of our facilities, right? We've had over 30,000 people through those training programs over the last 20 years. To me, that's the real, that's the real prize here, is to train and educate people to make our industry better. And then we try to incorporate, Morgan, as much hands-on as we can, because again, adult learners are, they want to touch and feel and actually practice what we teach them. So we actually do have them physically working on stuff, installing equipment, showing them, how a safety on a coupler works, how a safety on a regulator works if you overpressurize the system or whatever. So, but the bottom line for our training classes is it's about beer. Beer is fun. And then we try to keep them, engaged in all of that stuff. So
that I know I constantly see all the buzz out there that you guys are doing just from a safety and training aspect online on your website. I know you guys just did some great development on your site. It's super intuitive. You guys always have great resources. So I love what you guys are doing. I know training is really important. And if it's not engaging, like you said, people like to practice what you preach and actually touch and feel and get a visual of what's going on. So, but I think that was perfectly said. I really appreciate you, Tom, for taking time out again. I did, just in closing, want to make sure that you gave everyone in the audience the right information if they want to learn more about Micro Matic, about your trainings, what you all have in terms of solutions. Where could they go to find more, or maybe even connect with you?
Yeah, so Micro Matic, again, we talked a little bit about this. We have a fantastic website. Tons of information. There's education tabs on there. There's so much stuff. I mean, over the years, we've developed so much content. And of course, we're in the business of sales. So our products are all listed on there. And there's a tab on there for training, learning. So our website is a great resource to, if you want to learn more about Micro Matic or be educated about draft beer or CO2 safety, or if you have any questions. So micromatic.com is our website. 1-866-327-4159 is Micro Matic's toll-free number.
Thanks for providing that too for our audience, and just for taking time today. I think your expertise is so honored, and I'm so glad that we're a valued partner with you all. We were able to get this true industry feedback from you today. So thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.